Does your electric guitar amp modeler need a plain old DI, or do you have to spend the money to get a line isolator, or you just abandon all that and kind of get an adapter cable that goes from TRS to XLR and plug it into your console that way? Why do we have these different things, and why do they even matter? Today we're going to talk about the difference between these and what might be the best option for you and your electric guitar amp modeler. Though my modeling career is ongoing due to YouTube thumbnails, you might not know that I have a little bit of remodeling experience. And though I'm no Bob Vila, I know that having the right tool for the job makes the job a lot easier. So that's why we're talking about direct boxes and line isolators. Oh, and I do have some listening examples at the end, and no, it's not me playing electric guitar, so you don't have to worry about that this time. If you want to, you could go ahead and skip ahead and start commenting immediately about why one is better than the other, but then you'd be like a journalist that forms an authoritative opinion and starts writing about something that they don't quite understand yet. So don't do that. The output of a lot of your amp modeling stomp boxes can be set to line level. This means that it's at the level that the console or recorder wants to see, and it doesn't need any additional amplification or impedance change. It's ready for your console's EQ, compressor, fader, and all that without needing any or maybe just a little bit more boost. Line level is higher than instrument level output, or what's normally going to come out of your acoustic guitar, bass, or electric guitar. Though the output jack looks like a plain old 1/4 inch output, it's probably a line level output from your amp modeler, or at least it can be set to be line level. A lot of them have a balanced output connector, which is looking for this tip ring sleeve connector, so that there's 3 conductors going along the cable, not just 2 like your normal instrument cable. This would correlate to the 3 little pins that are on your XLR cable. So why can't we just go from the tip ring sleeve straight to XLR and run that to our soundboard? From an electrical engineering standpoint, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You could put your HX Stomp in line level mode and your input to the console would be just fine. That is, unless you've picked up any noise along the way, or you introduce a ground loop. A ground loop is a 60 Hz hum that comes from 2 devices being connected to electrical ground and also being connected to each other, but they're connected to a different electrical ground, and so that causes a hum and its overtones to get introduced into the audio signal. Though that might be a little bit confusing, and it is for me, honestly, the way that you can get around that is to lift the ground on one of those audio connections. That's a feature that's found on a lot of DIs. You can see here there's a ground lift switch. So we just flip it, and that lifts the pin going to the ground on the XLR, and that can solve your ground loop problem. It's also easier than devising a star grounding system for your live rig. So if our XLR to TRS adapter doesn't have the ability to add a ground lift, but our DI does, why don't we just use a DI for our amp modeler? That's a great question. Let's talk about what a DI actually does. A DI is meant to take an instrument level signal, which is high impedance and unbalanced, and turn it into a signal that can go over a long run and not pick up noise, which needs to be low impedance and balanced. The preamp on your console is looking for a low impedance signal. That's the type of signal that your mic preamp is looking for on the input of your console. A passive direct box does this with a transformer that has different windings on each side of the coil, and they're wound so that it creates a balanced signal on the output. That balanced signal has opposite voltage on 2 of the conductors, so that if any noise gets introduced along that long mic cable run, then at the preamp, it knows to invert one of those sides and it cancels out the noise, making it a lot easier to get a low noise signal from your direct box. Our instrument level outputs are kind of like a drinking straw. It's fine to go a short distance, but if you want to get more over a long distance, you're going to need something larger. This is where having lower impedance is more like a garden hose or a fire hose. You can get a lot more water through that hose if it's bigger around. There are also active DIs, which use a powered circuit inside the direct box to change the impedance and to balance the signal on the output. But I don't understand it anywhere beyond that, so if you ask in the comments, I'm sorry, I can't help you. So if we have a signal that's already low impedance and we run it into the DI, that difference of windings from one side of the transformer to the other is going to cause a signal loss. So then the strong signal that's coming out of our amp simulator then gets weakened before it gets sent to the soundboard. Then we have to turn up the preamp more, and it could introduce a little bit more noise, especially if you've got a less expensive console and the preamps are a little bit noisy. If you have some really awesome preamps that impart a really cool color to your tone, awesome, go ahead and use those. I mean, I wouldn't be mad if a lunchbox full of API preamps fell in my lap. But if you don't have a high-end console with great preamps, you don't want to amplify any more noise coming into the console. You're probably already fighting a lot of noise from your pickups and gain stages. You don't want the mic pre to add that extra little bit of noise on top of that. Even though that little bit of noise from your mic preamp isn't that big of a deal, it does tend to accumulate with the other channels that it's doing as well. So it's not the end of the world if you use a DI and have to boost up the signal again at your console with the preamp to get it back to line level. However, there are some tonal differences that come from different DIs. So if you don't want that tone change, but you want to have the flexibility to be able to deal with a ground loop, what do? Well, enter the line isolator. This is the DISO Plus, or DISO Plus, or DISO Plus. I'm not really sure how you say it, but it's a line isolator. This one's a stereo version, and it has one-to-one transformers on the inside. This means that you get electrical isolation, so that you don't have to deal with the ground loop, but you're not imparting any tone change, and you're not imparting any impedance change from the output of your amp simulator. If you're an OG sound tech from the analog days, and you ever used a mic splitter to go to monitors and front of house and have separate consoles, this is the same idea. You're using a one-to-one transformer so that it just duplicates the signal but gives you more options for lifting the ground. This particular one has a ground lift and even summing for your XLR or quarter-inch outputs. So in the horrible, awful, no good, very bad day that you only have one console input available for your stereo rig, you don't have to rewire your pedal board. So enough of all this nerd talk. Let's listen to some of these DIs and see if we can hear a difference between them. Now, I'll go ahead and warn you, it is subtle, so you might want to put on headphones. And remember that everything in audio, in getting better audio, is pretty much baby steps after you master the basics. Also, if you're listening on your dirty phone speaker, try a pass on headphones before you get vicious in the comment. So here's how I set it up. I had my friend Chris play a part into his HX Stomp and loop it internally inside the HX Stomp. Then we plugged it in either with a TRS cable straight into the line input of my console, or a variety of DIs. I've got the Horizon Passive, the DISO Plus or DISO Plus, and the Teegarden Audio Magic DI. Though I got the exact same performance each time, I was going into different channels on the console, so there could be a little bit of weakness in the scientific method of how I did this. On screen, I'll put how much gain I used at the preamp and then how much gain I used in post to get it all normalized for you. So pop on your headphones and see if you can hear the difference. So, with that being said, could you hear a difference? Let me know what you thought down in the comments below. I want to give a special thanks to Charlie at Pinstripe Pedals for lending me the DISO or DISO or DISO Plus, and Bret Teegarden at Teegarden Audio for lending me the Magic DI. I didn't get anything out of making this video other than the satisfaction of helping you understand how to get the best tone possible. If you like that, smash that thumbs up. Be sure to binge watch some other videos over here, and remember, it's all about the low end, avoid the sound tech solo, and nobody leaves humming the kick drum. Although they might be singing and playing air guitar to the guitar solo. We'll see you back here next time on Attaway Audio.